What started as a plain glass mason jar slowly blooms into something magical. Layer by layer, clay flowers, soft paint techniques, and tiny rhinestones bring this glowing lantern to life. If you love air dry clay crafts, this project is pure creative joy. Hello, my crafty friends. I'm Donna from Mason Creations, etc. And welcome to my channel. If you're ready, my friends, let's make a mess. This is just a plain glass mason jar and a wooden circle. I'm removing the lid from the jar and I'm going to glue it to the wood piece using Aleene's tacky glue. Before I glue it, I'm using some sandpaper to rough up the metal a little so I can get a better hold. I made some pencil marks in the center on the wood to guide me. My crafty friend, Nikki J, asked me if I would make a lantern out of a jar using ornate molded air dry clay. Nikki, my friend, this video's for you. And before I started, I cleaned the jar with an alcohol wipe to make sure it was free from dirt and fingerprints. I'm using my favorite, Doss clay, to make some embellishments for this project. Doss clay is so easy to work with, dries quickly, and has very little shrinkage or cracking when dry. It's perfect for making molded pieces. After pressing the clay into the mold, I'm scraping off the excess with my palette knife. Now I'm smoothing the clay out with some water. Then I'll put them in the freezer for 20 minutes. Freezing the clay makes it rigid, so they just pop out of the mold easily. No fragile pieces will break off. This and all the products you're going to see me use today came from decoupagenapkins.com, my wonderful sponsors. Fresh out of the freezer, watch how easily these just pop out of the molds. No delicate little pieces will break off. They are frozen solids, so I'll need to let them thaw for a few minutes, but not in the mold. Make sure you remove them from the mold right away as soon as you take them out of the freezer. The jar is a slight square round. There are 4 raised points. I'll be putting a column-looking embellishment on each one of them. I'm using Aleene's tacky glue to attach all my clay pieces, starting with the columns. After applying the glue, I laid it on the jar using my palette knife to cut it to size. I'm cutting it off at the little ridge before the threads of the jar. As I was turning the jar to glue the next piece, I made sure that none of the previous clay was being pressed by anything. I made a cone shape out of the clay to glue on the top of the jar, so the flowers on the top would be elevated. Let that piece dry a couple of days before you start adding your flowers. I was in a hurry and didn't do that. I think it would have been a lot easier to let it dry first. I used 3 large flowers for the top of the jar and overlapped them so they'd look natural. Because you're watching this video today, decoupagenapkins.com is going to give you a 10% discount on one order that's a minimum of at least $50. This is a one-time discount and is good on your entire order when you use the code MASON10 in all caps at checkout. So now you can get that mold you've been eyeing or some additional rice papers you've been wanting. Even if you've been ordering from them in the past, you can still take advantage of this one-time 10% discount when using the code above. I'll leave all this information for you in my description box below. To find my description box, click on the word more just below the title of this video. I found these white plastic rings at Hobby Lobby, and I'm setting one of them in the clay at the top. I pushed it into the clay, made a dent, and now I'm going to glue it in place. Then I'll add some leaves over top to secure it. The flower mold I used was very thick, so the flowers are big and a little heavy. You can see that I had to use some painter's tape to hold them in place while they were drying. Where are you all watching from, my crafty friends? Let me know in the comments. I just love to see what cities and countries all my friends are watching from. I'm filming from sunny Las Vegas, Nevada in the United States. I'm using Aleene's tacky glue to add all the clay embellishments to the jar, letting them thaw for a few minutes first so I could bend them. The larger flowers needed to thaw a bit longer. I need to add this while the clay is still wet so it'll conform to the piece as it dries. This is the best glue I've found for attaching wet clay. If any glue seeps out from under the clay, I'm removing it right away with a clean, damp brush. I'm also pressing down all the edges of the clay very delicately to make sure they're all connecting with the piece. I did all 4 sides of the jar, making each side very similar, but with slight variations. I let each side dry overnight before I flipped it over to work on the next one. I let each side dry for 24 hours, and now I'm going to work on the base. I screwed the jar into the lid that's glued to the wooden base. I rolled up a small amount of clay and glued it to the metal lid to keep the flowers away from the glass. This will keep it at a distance so the glass can be turned after all the embellishments have been added. Now I'm gluing the flowers to the wood base as well as that roll of clay I added. DecoupageNapkins.com has an amazing selection of napkins, and the best part is that you can purchase them individually. They carry a wide range of craft supplies, including rice paper, paints, clay, molds, and an excellent selection of polyvine products. With thousands of items available and new products being added regularly, it's truly a one-stop shop for crafters. Orders are carefully packed and shipped quickly. You'll earn bonus points on orders over $100. Additional offers may vary and are often seasonal, so be sure to check their website. You'll find any promotions displayed in a banner at the top of their homepage. Subscribe to their newsletter by entering your email address to receive 10% off your next order. This discount is separate from the Mason 10 code and may be used on an additional purchase. I'll leave links to all the products I use in the description box below. Please note that all offers are subject to change. To find my description box, click on the word "More" below the title of this video. After drying overnight, there is a gap by where I added that rolled up clay. I'm going to use some texture paste to fill in that gap and hide the rolled up clay. I scooped some into the gap and smoothed it out with a damp brush. Any of the products I use in my videos are great products that I personally believe in, so you can bet that each one is a great product. All the products I use will be listed in my description box below. Each one will have a blue link so they're easy for you to find. Any of the links I provide are safe for you to click on. To find my description box, click on the word "More" just below the title of this video. I'm going to let all my clay dry for a couple of days before continuing. All the clay is dry and I'm cleaning up the glass a little bit. I'm scraping off any excess glue or random tiny bits of clay from around the edges of the clay embellishments. I'm getting it ready for the beautiful paint job that's coming its way. I'm using Dixie Belle chalk paint in the color Magnolia. It is just the most beautiful warm white. I'm using this to paint all the flowers on both pieces. I'm sure you guys have noticed that I use a lot of Dixie Belle and Pentart paints. They are my absolute favorites. They both go on super smooth and creamy with really good coverage. I rarely, if ever, need a second coat of Pentart, and that goes for the metallic colors as well. I'm painting all the leaves using Pentart Country Green, and the columns are painted in Pentart White Gold. This gold is so pretty. It's a neutral silvery gold. The mold I used for the flowers are magnolia blossoms, and I've had it in my stash for a while. I don't believe this mold is available any longer. However, there are so many flower molds that could be used to accomplish this exact same look. There are other magnolia blossom molds, and I can see it with sunflowers or roses too. You could add little birds or bees, just about anything your imagination can dream up. I'll leave you a link in my description box for some great molds. In most of my videos, you'll see me using a lot of different tools that make life so much easier. Things like a turquoise cup cradle to keep round objects from getting away, a Bodabra that makes bows in a snap, a water brush for separating rice paper and napkins, small art brushes for fine detail work, palette knives, and a rhinestone picker. If you're interested in checking out any of these items, you can find them listed in my description box below, in my favorite tools section. To find my description box, click on the word more just below the title of this video. I want to paint that white ring gold, but it's shiny plastic. We all know that paint doesn't stick well to shiny plastic. So I'm going to give it a coat of Polyvine multi-surface lacquer in dead flat. That will remove the shine and act as a gripping layer, so my paint won't chip or peel. I'll let this dry for several hours. I'm going to give all my painted clay a coat of Polyvine heavy duty varnish. I'm going to be doing some paint techniques that I want a shiny surface for, in case I need to wet it or wipe it back. I'm being careful not to get this on the glass. If I slip, I'm going to wipe it off right away. All of the Polyvine varnishes are wonderful sealers, but the heavy-duty varnish is my preferred one to use. I love the flawless satin sheen it gives, which is moisture, heat, abrasion, chemical, and stain resistant, as well as food safe. It's water-based, so there is no strong smell or harmful fumes. And then I'll let that dry for about an hour. I'm mixing my Magnolia paint with Pentart paint in the color Rose. It's a light pink, but I want it even lighter. I used Magnolia as my base, so all the paint tones would match. I also mixed in a little bit of yellow ochre to warm up the color. I love creating my own colors of paint. Tell me in the comments if you enjoy doing this too. I'm mixing the yellow ochre with some of the Magnolia as well. Okay, let's go. I painted a little of the light ochre color around the center of the flowers. Now I'm blending the pink mixture into the yellow I just painted. I added a little water to my paints to thin them out some. I don't want full coverage of my colors. I want the color to look thin and watery. I'm going back and forth with the two colors until I'm happy with the way it looks. If you've been using Polyvine products, you're going to notice that they've changed all the labels and some of the product names. The heavy-duty wood varnish is now heavy-duty varnish, and the heavy-duty extreme varnish is now exterior extreme varnish. I hope you love and enjoy these products as much as I do. I'm brushing on some heavily watered down fuchsia paint very lightly on each flower petal. I'm adding this closer to the yellow paint and leaving the tips the light pink. If I get it too heavy anywhere, I'm spraying it with some water and dabbing some off. After I was done painting all my flowers, I let them dry for about an hour. I'm going to be doing some antiquing, and you need a shiny surface for that to work properly. So I gave just the flowers another coat of varnish and let them dry an hour as well. I'm going to add a little depth and dimension by doing an antiquing technique. I'm using Folk Art Antiquing Medium in the color Wooden Bucket Brown. I put a few drops in a little paper cup and added some water. I prefer my antique mediums somewhat runny. I'm brushing my antique on the piece, going over and around all the embellishments. I'm doing this in sections and wiping the antique off with a soft, dry cloth right away before it can dry. Because of the gloss finish, it will wipe off the surface and stay in all the cracks and crevices, showing the details of the mold. Antiquing gives your embellishments some depth and dimension, making everything look 3D instead of flat. What a difference it makes. Everything just comes to life now. If you're enjoying this video, please let me know by hitting that like button. When you click the like button, a new hype button shows up. If you click that, you'll be able to send points to my channel. YouTube will then send this video out to more viewers. This is great for my channel. I appreciate you for doing that. You won't want to miss any of the new projects coming up, so don't forget to subscribe. I'm making sure to brush the antique around all the clay pieces on the glass. If there's a tiny white line, this will cover it up and turn it into a shadow. It's watered down quite a bit, so it's going to wipe off the glass easily. It's easiest if you get it before it dries. Now it's time to break out the magnolia paint again. I'm going to highlight everything by doing some dry brushing. I'm dipping just the tip of my brush into the paint. I'm wiping off most of it on the side of the paint jar. Then wipe even more of it off on a paper towel. You want your brush almost completely dry to get the proper effect. I'm skimming just the tip of my brush across the high points on the embellishment. You don't want the paint to go into any of the cracks or crevices, just lightly across the top. I only did the flowers and leaves. I didn't do any dry brushing on the gold columns. Wait until you see how this is going to brighten up those embellishments, and I'm going to brighten them up even more in a little bit. And then I let this dry for about 30 minutes. I'm using a Q-tip to clean the glass around all my embellishments. I have a little bit of antique as well as some of the dry brushing paint on the glass. Now that I have the glass all cleaned up, I'm going to give all the embellishments a final coat of varnish to protect all that paint I just added, as well as give it a beautiful shine. And then I'll let that dry for about an hour. Okay, my rhinestone leavened friends, here they come. I'm going to use something called diamond dots. These are for diamond paintings, but I love them and add them to a lot of my projects. They're gold on one side and silver on the other, so it looks pretty cool when they get all mixed up. I'm using color number 7009. I'm dripping some of my Polyvine heavy-duty varnish on the glass near the edges of my clay embellishments. I'm using a tiny spoon to dump those little diamond dots into the varnish drippings. The gold and silver mix up and it looks like white gold, just like the columns. The heavy-duty varnish is great for this process. It dries super shiny, just like the glass, so it won't show at all when dry. I just kept dripping varnish and adding stones around a lot of the embellishments. I'll let this dry for about an hour and then there will be one more step to fabulousness. Don't forget, all of the wonderful products I'm using today can be found at my favorite place for craft supplies, decoupagenapkins.com, and I'll leave you links in my description box below. Remember I said I was going to brighten up these embellishments a little bit more? Well, here we go. I'm using a wax rub in the color White Pearl. I normally apply this medium with my finger, but I want it to be really precise, so I'm going to apply it with a small flat brush. It's getting brushed on just the very edges of the flower petals. This is going to add more highlights and shine to the petals, as well as a pearl finish. I only added this to the flowers and not any of the leaves or columns. You won't need to seal this again. Wax doesn't need a sealer and will always be the last thing you add to your projects. The candle was sitting too low inside the base. I painted some little wooden finials gold and glued them to the inside bottom. This lifted the candle about an inch, which was perfect. This product is solvent-based, so you'll need to clean your brush with mineral spirit. I've added a link to a video that I think you may enjoy. Click the picture on the right to be taken directly to that video. I'm so happy you were here with me today, and thanks so much for watching. I can't wait to see you all next week. I'm working on a new project with you in mind. You can subscribe by clicking my picture in the top right corner.